The following program is paid for by the friends and partners of Joyce Meyer Ministries.
All right, we've been talking about the different kinds of tests that we have to pass in life in order to be promoted. We all like promotion. We all want to grow. We want to grow in our finances. We want our businesses to grow. We want our ministries to grow. There's nothing wrong with wanting progress and promotion. I mean, it's kind of difficult to work towards something if you can never expect a reward. But we do have to realize that anytime we ask God to promote us, I think especially when you're wanting God to use you and you're asking Him to use you in a greater way, then you just have to understand that you're going to be tested and tried. God never tempts us with anything that's evil, but He does permit, sometimes allow, and sometimes even arrange for different things to take place in our life just to work the stuff out of us that needs to come out. And in James chapter 1 it says, be patient in all kinds of trials, knowing that the trying of your faith brings out patience. And like I said, they brought a lot of things out of me before we ever got around to patience. And so there's a lot of things in us that sometimes we don't even know is there. And so we just keep going through things until we get to the point where we can do things God's way. So I've talked about different kinds of tests, and I think it's been really good. Last night we talked about the going through test. Rather than running away from things, that we need to confront the giants in our life, and talked about how David ran toward the battle line, not away from the battle line, and just some really good things. And today I want to talk to you about the forgiveness test. Because just as sure as I'm sitting here this morning talking to you, you are going to run into some situations, sometimes even frequently, where people hurt you, or they do something you don't like, or they don't understand you when you need them to understand. They disappoint you. Sometimes people even experience betrayal. I like to call it the Judas kiss test, where Judas betrayed Jesus, and yet Jesus forgave him. When we talk about forgiveness, although it's a message that you may hear a lot, it's a message that we always need, over and over and over, because it's probably one of the most challenging things that we do. It seems so unfair to just forgive somebody that hurt you. And there's a part of us that wants to think, well, why should they just get away with that? Well, see, you don't need to worry about their punishment. You need to be more concerned about yourself. And I like to say, if somebody's already hurt you, then don't spend the next 10 years of your life hurting yourself because of how they hurt you. And so really, when you forgive people, you're doing yourself a favor. It's really not even about them. You're doing yourself a favor. But I recall sitting in a service on a Tuesday night in church many, many years ago. And I was sitting probably about right down here, second seat on the front row in my church at the time. And the pastor said that night he was going to teach on unforgiveness. And I thought, oh, I don't have a problem with that. And I just heard the Holy Spirit say, yes, you do. I thought, I don't know of anybody I'm mad at. But during the night, as the pastor taught, God revealed to me a couple of different things, one of which I realized later was a pretty major issue in my life between my oldest son and myself. But it was something that had been around for so long that I just kind of took it as part of life and didn't deal with it. And I think my concern for people is that sometimes we get so used to having these things in us that sometimes we don't even realize they're there, or we don't realize how important it is to deal with them. And so there are actually things that we do if we have unforgiveness against someone that we might not even, we may not even think that we're in unforgiveness, but if you see yourself doing these things that I'm going to talk to you about today, then that's a signal for you that something's wrong in your own heart. Father, I thank you as the word goes forth today that people are going to get it. Even people who have heard teaching on forgiveness many, many, many times. I ask you to expose things in our heart that shouldn't be there, and help us to just come clean with you today and do what's right. You know, there's even relationships where you kind of border on, you really work at being okay with this person, but they're just kind of a continual irritation to you. There probably will be some people in your life that you're going to have to forgive them over and over and over and over and over. Peter said, how many times must I forgive my brother for the same thing? I don't know where Peter came up with this. He said 7. He was probably already at 7, and that was about as far as he cared to go. But Jesus said no, 7 times 70, and really 7 in the Bible is God's number of perfection, and so he was pretty much just saying however many times it takes. But you just cannot, please hear me today, you cannot afford to have any bitterness, resentment, or unforgiveness in your heart, because it will mess you up spiritually, absolutely, in an unbelievable way. So Matthew 5:8 says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And in Proverbs 4:23 it says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. So it's very important that we keep our heart pure and right. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. What does that mean? I believe it means that you'll hear from God more clearly. You'll be a lot more sensitive to God's presence. You will enjoy really close fellowship with Him. But if we're not pure in heart, then we're sacrificing that walk with God that we could have, just because we prefer to harbor these unlovely things on the inside. Well, we'll return to the teaching in a moment, but I want you to think about an area of unforgiveness that can be very easy to overlook. Ask yourself this question: have you forgiven yourself for things that maybe you feel like you've done wrong, or areas of weakness in your own life? You know, my daughter struggled with this for years. Her name is Sandra, and recently she sat down with Ginger to discuss how she overcame this problem in her life. Enjoy this.
Sandra, we know that there are a lot of different aspects of forgiveness. And in Joyce's book, Do Yourself a Favor and Forgive, she talks about the different aspects of forgiving others, forgiving God when you've got some anger towards situations in your life, and forgiving yourself. So are there any of those areas that kind of jumped out to you as, you know, that's the one for me?
Yes, forgiving myself.
Really?
Yes. The chapter is called Who Are You Mad At? And then the first part is I'm mad at myself. And it resonated with me. You know, God's helped me over the years, you know, how He peels layer upon layer off of us, you know, one layer at a time. But I realized that I still had quite a problem recently, and God had done quite a work in me in the beginning of January in helping me realize that I try to get so much of my worth and value out of what I do and accomplishing, and
which is so common, you know, for most of us.
And you know what? I felt like a failure at the end of every day, because I would put expectations on myself. Nobody else was putting them on me. You know, I haven't struggled with being mad at other people as much. I have struggled with being mad at myself, because I wanted to get everything checked off of my list at the end of the day. And, you know, I find myself mad at myself at the end of the day because I didn't do that. But the thing is I was putting these expectations on myself that were just like nobody could have gotten that much done in one day. And
well, it had to be a long list anyway, because you know, you're a mother, you have 2 daughters, twins. And you know, there's just a lot that has to be done in life, and especially for a mom.
And then I would just like once in a while, when I'd have a day where I got everything checked off the list, I would just let myself rest, even on the inside, for just a few minutes. But then I would jump back on that treadmill of accomplishment, I call it, and I would just say, okay, now I've got to get something else done, because I was getting my worth and value out of that.
Yeah.
And so when I read my mom's book on Do Yourself a Favor and Forgive, which I love that title because we really are doing ourselves a favor. And in my case, I needed to forgive myself. And I needed to let myself rest. And I'm doing that now.
What are you doing different? How are you making it work?
You know, I'm thinking so much differently. I mean, the Lord, it's hard for me to talk about it without crying because I'm thinking so much differently now. The Lord is helping me to realize, oh my gosh, I'm okay. I don't know that I've ever felt okay. And I don't feel like that anymore. And I'm just so thrilled. I want to see other people get helped in this area too.
Well, and I think of so many people who are dealing with the same thing.
Right.
I love what you said. I go to bed feeling like a failure.
Yep.
That the honesty of being able to say that,
Yes.
because so many people are in that place right now, and God doesn't want us to feel that way
No,
at the end of the day.
He doesn't. I know one way my thinking changed so majorly. Before, I would automatically just think of what I didn't get done at the end of the day. Now, I don't even notice that. I only notice what I do get done,
Wow,
what I
yeah.
do get accomplished. And that's like, instead of saying at the end of the day, well, I didn't get this and this and this done, because I would get a lot done before. Nothing has changed, Ginger, in my circumstances.
So the negatives were
That's
bigger than the
neat thing.
positives before, but now
Definitely.
it's switched.
Now, oh yes. I think at the end of the day, well, I got this and this and this done, and I'm just so happy. I mean, before, I would feel unhappy, and the weird thing is it wasn't because, I mean, I have a wonderful husband, 2 beautiful children. I was like, what is wrong with me? But it was because, and that's when I started saying, God, I can't live this way anymore. I mean, in general, I was happy, but I'd feel like I'm working. I'd always be like, I don't know how to, kind of get you to understand, kind of act it out here. I mean, my eyes were always going all, I've got to accomplish, I've got to be worth, And now I feel like I'm okay.
So the stress is kind of lifted.
It is. It has.
Well, and
so,
probably the most natural thing would not be to lean toward, I need to forgive myself.
Right.
When you're looking at how do I get better? How do I not feel this way?
Yes.
Probably unforgiveness was not the first thing that came to your mind?
Exactly. Right. And when I read the book and that section said, who are you mad at? Very first part, I'm mad at myself. I was like, well, that's
There
me,
it is.
And I know my mom has a section in there about how she struggled with that. Same thing of just trying to accomplish, to be worth, And I'm just so thankful. I just talk about it just every day, I keep talking about it. I'm like, God, thank you so much. that
Well, you can
you've
see it in
done
your
this
face.
work
I mean,
in
you can
me.
see that
I'm
it really means a
relaxed.
lot to you, that
Yes.
you're very sincere about it. But
Exactly.
let me just ask you a truthful question. Don't you have to love all your mom's books? I mean, she's your mom, right?
Yes, definitely.
But this is somehow different for you.
It is. Yes, this is, this book on forgiveness is going to be able to help everyone, because everyone, there's nobody that is exempt from needing to forgive.
True.
At some time or another, many times on a daily basis. Sometimes big issues, major issues, sometimes little issues. I remember when I read it, I thought, oh, this is going to help so many people, because the book has, number one, it has stories, wonderful, inspiring stories that made me think as I was reading it, wow, if these people could go through what they went through and forgive, then I can forgive, even talking about forgiving others now. When I need to forgive other people, I can forgive others. If these people have gone through the horrendous things that they have and been able to forgive, then I can forgive others. And it also reminds us of how much we've been forgiven from God. And that's always good to remind ourselves, because, of course, when somebody does something to us that's hurtful and painful, we're like, oh, it's hard to forgive sometimes. But when we remind ourselves how much I've been forgiven from God, oh, I've been forgiven from a lot from God. I've been forgiven from a lot from my husband, because it was very hard for him to live with me. I'd say the first 5 years of our marriage, such a perfectionist. I wasn't mad at him there again, threw lots of fits because I was mad at myself. And thank God he did a big work in me back then. And then it wasn't quite as hard to live with me, but now he's seen the change in me recently again.
So he's noticed, huh?
Oh gosh, he said, I've never seen anything like
Wow.
it. And I'm so thankful for him. I'm happy for him because honestly, he'd come in the door and he wouldn't know what to expect. And as I said, I wasn't mad at everybody else, but he saw me frustrated all the time. And because he has that personality that loves peace, he just wanted to see me enjoy that, you know? And I'm just thankful now I can, and I feel like I can be a better wife and a better mother now.
You've had the opportunity to read many of your mom's books, if not most of them. And
Exactly.
This is one that you feel very passionately
I do.
about.
I do. I just feel like, you know,